I am a lineman for the county, and I drive the main road, searching in the sun for another overload. And I hear you in the wire, I can hear you through the wine, and the Wichita line is still on the road. I know I need a small vacation, but it don't look like rain. If it snows, that stretch down south won't ever stand the strain. And I need you more than want you, and I want you for all time. And the Wichita line still on the road. And I need you more than want you, and I want you for all time. And the Wichita line is still on the road. The Dutchman's not the kind of man to keep his thumb jammed in the dam and hold his dreams in. But that's a secret only Margaret knows. When Amsterdam is golden in the morning, Margaret brings him breakfast. She believes him. He thinks that tulips bloom beneath the snow. He's as mad as he can be, but Margaret only sees that sometimes he sees her unborn children in his eyes. Let us go to the banks of the ocean, where the walls rise above the Zuyder Zee. Long ago I used to be a young man, and dear Margaret remembers that for me. The Dutchman still wears wooden shoes, his cap and coat are patched with the love that Margaret sewed there. Sometimes he thinks he's still in Rotterdam, and he watches tugboats down canals and calls out to them when he thinks he knows a captain. But Margaret comes and takes him home again. Through the unforgiving streets of Tripoli, she holds his arm. Sometimes he thinks that he's alone and he calls her name. Let us go to the banks of the ocean, where the walls rise above his Zuyder Zee. Long ago I used to be a young man, and dear Margaret remembers that for me. And the windmills whirl the winter winds his muffler tighter and they sit in the kitchen. Some tea with whiskey keeps the way they do. He sees her for a moment, calls her name, she makes his bed up singing some love song. She learned it when the tune was very new. He hums a line or two and they hum together in the night. Dutchman falls asleep, Margaret blows a candle out. Let us go to the banks of the ocean, where the walls rise above the Zuyder's Zee. Long ago I used to be a young man, and dear Margaret remembers that for me. Let us go to the banks of the ocean, where the walls rise above the Zuyder's Zee. Long ago I used to be a young man, and dear Margaret remembers that for me. Rod, thanks very much for having us as part of this.
Geez,
Yeah,
guys,
we're delighted to share in the celebration with you.
Yeah, I
so,
appreciate it.
yeah.
Thanks the world.
In the early morning rain, with a dollar in my hand and an aching in my heart, my pockets full of sand. I'm a long, long way from home. I miss my loved ones so. In the early morning rain, with no place to go, out on runway number 9, big 707 said to go, but I'm stuck here on the grass, where the cold wind blows. The liquor tasted good, women all were fast. There she goes, my friends, well, she's rolling down at last. Hey, the mighty engines roar,
everyone, and welcome to my funny thing happened on the way to my launch party. Music plays an important role in my novel Kinmount, and I want to thank my friends Vern and Ken of North Facing Folk for coming in and recording some Glenn Campbell and some Gordon Lightfoot and some Johnny Cash to set the mood and feel for Kinmount. Thanks again, guys, and take it away.
Love is a burning thing. It makes a fire ring. I'm bound by a wild desire. I fell into a ring of fire. I fell into a burning ring of fire. Down, 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 and the flames are higher. It burns, burns, burns. The ring of fire. The ring of fire. I fell into a burning ring of fire. Down, 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 and the flames hang higher. It burns, burns, burns. The ring of fire, the ring of fire. The taste of love is sweet when hearts like ours meet. I fell for you like a child.
Hello, I'm Heather Campbell, publisher for Latitude 46 Publishing here in Sudbury. We are excited to be bringing you another Rod Carley book for you to enjoy. Rod is one of the very first authors to approach us in 2015 when we opened our doors, and we published A Matter of Will in 2017, and very happy we did. He's enthusiastic and committed to telling good stories, and we love supporting him. Kinmount is more of Rod's unique humor, and he has so many years in Canadian theater, and he's giving us a little glimpse into the strange world of small town community theater. Reviews have been full of admiration for Rod's knack of getting a good chuckle out of us, and I'm sure you will enjoy this book just as much. Glad you all made it for the launch. Congrats to Rod on another hilarious tale, and enjoy what we have planned for you, and do let us know what your favorite parts of the book are. Enjoy.
Thank you, Heather, and good evening, my friends, and welcome to our home, which we call the Snug, and I'm here in the kitchen, and I would love to be doing this launch live with all of you, but these are the way things are. Now, this kitchen has seen a lot of gatherings. It has not been uncommon for 30 to 40 people to be crammed in here, East Coast kitchen party style, and I think that's what kitchens are made for, a good party, and that's why I'm hosting my launch from my kitchen, and I'm so glad that all of you could virtually join me in the kitchen from the comfort of your own home. And one of the positives about doing this launch on Zoom is that there would be no way to get all of you in the same place at the same time, because I've got friends here from across Canada and the USA and of course Costa Rica. And I thought, since you're joining me, I thought it might be great for you guys to know who's there with you watching me. And I'm not going to share names, of course, but I just want to share how excited I am that I've got old friends from Toronto and North Bay and Brockville. I've got theater colleagues and fellow artists. I've got educators from Canadore and Nipissing. I've got students, past students and present. I've got family and extended family. And I've got Trinity, and I've got fellow authors and writers here tonight. And of course, pets. So here we are. Well, we have balloons and we have cake, and I have got my Latitude 46 publishing mug, and I hope you've got a beverage to enjoy. And as I promised, there would be monkeys. So we've got a monkey tonight, and I'm just going to sit Mercutio right here to join the proceedings, and now we can begin. So what I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to talk a little bit about Kinmount, do a couple of readings, and with the assistance of Ryan from Buzzmasters, he's going to ask me some questions that you sent in when you registered, and I'm going to do my best to answer them. We may have one or two surprises along the way, and if you have any questions that you want to ask me during the launch as it unfolds, just leave a comment or a question in the comment section, in the chat section there, and we'll get to those later. Now, before we get started, I need to thank some very important people that have made all of this possible. I want to begin by acknowledging that our home is on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe people of Nipissing First Nation, with whom we seek to live in mutuality and respect. Latitude 46 Publishing is a remarkably tenacious grassroots Northern Ontario publishing house providing opportunities for Northern Ontario writers. Northern Ontario isn't easy. It is challenging. It's like if you're a plant trying to get roots to grow in the Canadian Shield, and that's a pretty sound working metaphor. You certainly need a sense of humor to create your art. And Heather Campbell heads up Latitude 46 Publishing, and she got behind my first book, A Matter of Will, from the onset. And then she published my short story, A Farewell to Steam, and the anthology 150 Years Up North and More, and now Kinmount. Heather and I, we work as a team. She is passionate about writers and their writing. It's donating a 2-book package, and it's going to be A Matter of Will and Kinmount as a launch giveaway. So what, for all of you that have registered, are in the draw, and what's going to happen is, through the course of the evening, Buzzmasters will make the draw, and it'll be based on the number that you are in the order of how you registered. So we'll know by the end of the evening who gets a free copy of Kinmount and a free copy of A Matter of Will. Okay, also, Latitude 46 is launching 2 other books this fall. The Seventh Shot by Anne Burke. Now this is a new crime book on the trail of one of Canada's most notorious serial killers, and that launch is next Thursday, as well as Britt Griffin's final installment of her The Winterman Climate Change Dystopian Action Trilogy. And Britt is with us here this evening, and thank you, Britt, so much for joining me on my launch. The editor-author relationship is sacrosanct. It is as essential as the director-actor relationship, the coach-athlete relationship, and finding the right fit and chemistry is crucial. And that fit is unique for each author. It's much like in the theatrical world, trying to get the right casting for Romeo and Juliet. Mutual respect and trust are key, because trusting your editor means that you're open to receiving their constructive criticism, even if it's a difficult pill to swallow every now and then. And I've been fortunate. Mitchell Govan was my editor for Kinmount, and Mitchell has a brilliant mind. He possesses an astute intelligence and a keen understanding of structure and weight. He is insightful and respectful of the writer's craft, and his suggestions were extremely useful, and his questions helped to improve the book immeasurably. He also came up with the initial cover design concept, and I know you're watching, Mitchell, so thank you so much for all that you do. And I want to thank Terry Fallis for championing Kinmount since the beginning of August. Not only is Terry one of Canada's preeminent literary humorists, he's also a great guy. And make sure you check out his latest book, Albatross, which has been out for about a year now, and the French version just came out last week. Très bon. And I'm excited that Terry and I will be doing readings and a discussion later in November at Wordstock in Sudbury on Saturday, November the 7th. And I'm thrilled to be doing that with you, Terry, and so looking forward to that. Also big thanks to Kevin Hoffman for being a cool cat and designing the book cover as well as the book trailer and the Digital Book Festival and Book Club promo. Kudos to Nathaniel Moore of Moore Height, our publicist, for getting Kinmount into the hands of magazine editors, reviewers, bloggers, podcasters, and opening doors. I want to thank Ed Regan for shooting the readings for my website and Rick Comtois of SWAT Media Group for my website design. Special thanks to Josh Bainbridge, Derek Diorio, Harriet Madigan, Kelsey Rule, and Shadman for their launch promotional videos. And a big shout out to North Facing Folk, who you were listening to the music while you were waiting to start the launch. And North Facing Folk is Gordon Biancourt and Ken Hull. And I want to thank them for playing the Kinmount themed music this evening. And also Ken recorded my audiobook for Matt of Will, so thanks, man. And to all of you who are joining me this evening who have read the book already and have posted reviews on Goodreads and on your social media, thank you. And to all of you who have let me know that you're reading the book and enjoying it right now, it all means the world to me. And I also now know that Amazon, as of today, you're able to leave reviews on Amazon now. A big thanks to Buzzmasters Digital Media for organizing and streaming the launch and the promo videos. And they are Ryan and Brandon and Thomas and Aaron and Lauren. And a couple of them are in my kitchen right now streaming this launch. Of course, they're wearing masks and they are physical distancing. And I want to thank Frankie, manager of Lou Dogs in town. And that was where the launch was going to happen. And then COVID happened. I want to thank my wife, Marion, for her ongoing support, her patience, and her critical eye. And finally, to everyone that I've worked with in the trenches of Canadian theatre over these many years. And I have a few dear old friends joining me tonight. And we go back decades in those trenches. And to all the scrappy survivors that work in Canadian theatre, I salute you. Kinmount has now become a kind of tattered love letter to the theatre as we navigate these really difficult and strange times. Well, that's just about it. Time's up. Thanks for coming out. Anyhow, what is Kinmount? Kinmount, well, it's about 322 pages, and it is the story of Dave Middleton, who is a down-and-out theatre director in middle age, and he reluctantly takes a job in a small rural Ontario farming town, Kinmount, for an eccentric producer to direct a summer festival production of Romeo and Juliet, and his troubles begin almost immediately. Dave is pitted against a rural conspiracy who want to censor him, and he finds himself backed into a corner. He becomes the reluctant emissary of truth, and he has to choose between caving into censorship and doing the play the way they want, or fighting to preserve his artistic integrity and the belief of what he thinks is Shakespeare's original intent. It is a horribly hilarious dilemma. Okay, and now I'm going to do a first reading of the night, and this is going to be the opening chapter of Kinmount. "Come to Kinmount," the voice said. It was Lola Whale. Lola Whale was an aging Renaissance woman living in Ontario Highlands farm country. She was a home renovator, Raphael-inspired painter, and in her latest incarnation, community theatre producer. David worked for her 6 months earlier, hired on an outreach grant to direct an amateur production of Congreve's 17th century restoration comedy, Love for Love. His choice. A modern dress adaptation that was as bold an artistic statement as it was a financial flop. Farmers left at intermission in droves to listen to a local entertainer cover Stompin' Tom in a dirt floor bar. "You're joking," he said, turning down the radio. Kinmount was the last place he wanted to revisit. The name alone said it all. "The locals meet their future spouses at family reunions," he said. "Very funny. Now put away that world weariness of yours and listen," she replied curtly. "Their children are conceived at a red light. I don't think—" Lola cut him off. "Our town council has approved a 3-day Summer in the Park festival over the August long weekend. The mayor pays child support to his sister," Dave continued. "I pitched them an outdoor Shakespeare for families," said Lola, ignoring him. "The life of a hand-to-mouth freelance director was about as glamorous and lucrative as cleaning toilets, a summer job David soldiered through during his second year at theater school. Lola continued, "Romeo and Juliet, and they went for it. I want you to direct." "Lola, no," Dave replied emphatically. "You already know the local talent," she said. "And look how well that went. We just have to educate them is all." "No, Lola." Dave watched with disgust as more and more shadflies landed on his mudroom window. To the children of Birch Lake, the shadfly was a national bird. This was not the case for the rest of the community. Shadfly season had officially started. A dead fish-smelling nuisance for the next 2 weeks. Millions of shads emerged from the shallow lake from behind his tiny bungalow, overwhelming predators who were unable to eat them all. Those that survived carried out their egg-laying mission. It was a numbers game, the shadfly version of storming the beaches of Normandy. "A full-time 3-week rehearsal period," said Lola. "They're amateurs. They all have jobs," Dave said, grabbing a broom. "And no teeth. So we juggle after work and evenings, weekends. Those that are free during the day you work with." Lola was as relentlessly optimistic as Dave was pessimistic. "It would take 6 months, said Dave, sweeping dead shadfly corpses off his back porch and windows, his cell phone now on speaker, resting on the patio table. "Now you're just being difficult." "No, I'm not," he said. "Besides, there is no one in Kinmount who could possibly play the leads." "So you bring in a couple of theater school grads who'll jump at the opportunity." "Well, they'll jump all right." He brushed a pair of copulating shadflies off his t-shirt. A shadfly's adult life was simple. Find a partner and mate before starving to death. Considering it had no mouth, not a difficult task. Or being eaten. 24 hours to make it count. Just like a Birch Lake tavern on a Friday night. "There's the budget to pay you and them and build a set and make costumes," said Lola. "The town is actually putting up money?" Dave turned on his water hose. It reared up like an angry garter snake. "No, I am. No." He sprayed his mudroom windows, turning the mash of shadflies into mush. "It's not a lot, but I can pay you 1,500 and Romeo and Juliet 1,000 each. And you can all stay at my house. Free room and board." "Uh-huh." He turned the hose off. Lola lived in a 5-bedroom Victorian home and rented out rooms to students during the school year. "I don't think so," said Dave, returning to the kitchen. "I'll get it all back at the performances. Donations. From all the farmers. Right. Unless I said it in a country bar, you can kiss your money goodbye." "No, I want it done as a costume piece," she said. He remained silent. "Have a little faith. It'll be great." "Faith is the least of my worries," he replied, unable to get the Congreve fiasco out of his mind. "Think of the good it will do for the community," Lola said, appealing to Dave's higher altruistic self. "And love for love tells you nothing?" Dave fired back, descending to his lower Darwinian self. "This is Shakespeare, not some obscure, long-wigged and winded restoration hack. Everyone knows Romeo and Juliet. Besides, I'll have your back." Despite her reservations, Lola had built the set, sold tickets, designed the poster, and made costumes for his restoration grunge comedy. She'd even agreed to his decision to use Nirvana for scene change music. "Lola, I'm sorry. I'm just not up to it." He sighed heavily. "You're making a big mistake." "I'm used to it. What's one more?" His horribly miscalculated zombie adaptation of Twelfth Night and the Living Dead, 2 years earlier in Brockville, had left loyalist audiences wanting to eat their own brains out. "Come on, you'll be brilliant. You know I make a mean Cornish hen." Lola could add gourmet chef to her list of accomplishments. "Gluttony will get you nowhere." "Stocked bar." "Nice try." The Rat Pack would have been envious of Lola's booze collection. Dave figured she punished her kids by refusing to let them put ice in their drinks. Local Girl is Canada's capital of unwed mothers under the age of 20, and you know it. Kids having kids. and the rest are grammatically challenged and wear spandex. And that's just the men. Sorry, Lola, thanks for the offer, but I'm not interested. Really. You think about it and I'll call you in a couple of days. There is no thinking. My answer is still no. Okay, I get it. Suit yourself. She hung up. He grabbed the cooler from the fridge and turned the radio up. A massive stream of shadflies took over the Birch Lake Municipal Bridge last night. The CBC afternoon host explained to her listeners with the measured gravity of H.G. Wells. Visibility was so bad that vehicles were unable to pass due to the swarm. The town will keep the lights turned off over the next few weeks in order to keep the bugs off the bridge. He called Lola back. Thanks for being back here with me, and now I'm going to answer a few questions. So Ryan, what have you got?
So both Dean and Keegan ask, what was the inspiration for this story?
Okay, the inspiration for Kinmount. Okay, well, Dean and Keegan, I've been working in theater for 35 years. And back in my early 30s, I had a few experiences where I was working with a few producers that were playing pretty fast and loose. And I was working in a couple of shows where they wanted me to change what the script was to suit their audience. And I was put in a real dilemma. And in two cases, I wouldn't do it. I couldn't do it, and I quit those shows. I haven't quit any other shows in my career, but those two I did. And I've had other pretty ridiculous misadventures over the years, of course never in Brockville, and doing shows on community outreach programs. So when that was all going on, I kept saying to myself, you know, someday that would make a great story. And I wasn't sure if it might be a play or what it might be. And here we are years later, and now it has become a piece of literary fiction.
Adam asks, how long did you have A Matter of Will and Kinmount inside you?
Okay, well, Kinmount began percolating as an idea way back, I'd say about 25, 30 years ago. In terms of the writing of Kinmount, I started writing Kinmount 6 years ago after A Matter of Will came out, and A Matter of Will happened because I visited Witless Bay in the summer of 2007 and was so taken with my experience with this eccentric Newfoundlander that I met that it led to the writing of a play, and then it led further into the creation of A Matter of Will.
Donna asks, was the second novel easier or more difficult to write than the first? How different is it than the first one?
All right, Donna. Well, both books deal with the theater. Only A Matter of Will, less so, only in the opening chapters, and Kinmount is all about the theater. The major difference between the two books is that A Matter of Will takes place over 30 years, and it's a picaresque about a rogue, Will Crosswell, who goes from being a rogue on the path to redemption. And Kinmount is compressed into a wild and woolly 3 weeks. And Dave Middleton doesn't go on that same journey. He's more of a pinball tossed into a pinball game and banged all around and hopes that he doesn't hit tilt. And I would say the Kinmount was more difficult to write because I was juggling a lot more balls in the air. There was the humor of the story, all the characters, the first folio of Shakespeare, as well as the themes of Shakespeare coming in Cervantes and Aeschylus and a lot of other ideas that I was playing with that needed a lot of work to massage into the cohesive whole in the end.
Darlene asks, are there any of the characters based on people I know?
Darlene, I bet you every author gets asked that question. Are there any characters based on people I know? Well, in the writing of this book, what I've done is I looked at all my directing experience that I've had over the years, and there's been so many, and all these characters are composites of a lot of different people. So there's no one individual that I would say, yes, that's that person in the book. There's bits and pieces of certain people that I've taken, and I've kind of like, you know, creating Frankenstein, a bit of that person, and threw it into a giant blender, and then come out with a new character. And some are just the result of my crazy, overactive imagination. And one thing I learned a number of years ago, I took a really great writing workshop with Thompson Highway. And he talked about whether you're writing plays or you're writing fiction in any way, always start with the truth. Always start with the truth in terms of the characters and who they are and what they're doing. And then the next time you come back to it, start start changing their name, maybe their gender, maybe what they do, and then the next time you come back and you fictionalize and fictionalize, by the time you finish, you've created an entire work of fiction, but it's always been grounded in that central truth from the beginning, and that sort of is what I think gives the story its integrity and allows readers to empathize with it and go for the journey.
Clayton asks, are your characters based on the combination of many places and many people, or specific places and individual people? What is the thought process in creating fiction influenced by reality?
Okay, I think Clayton, in terms of writing fiction based on reality, I would say kind of when I was saying about Thompson Highway, it's taking the truth, the authentic truth, and then blending it and molding it and reshaping it and twisting it until you come up with something new. And one of the great ironies, I think, about writing fiction is you can actually get closer to the truth. And it's a paradox. It's like, although Dave Middleton isn't me, I can put a lot of myself in that character because he isn't me, if that makes any sense.
Eric asks, how tall is Dave Middleton?
Okay, that's my good friend Eric in Brockville. Well, Eric, Dave Middleton is tall enough to know that he shouldn't sing karaoke in Kinmount.
Anita asks, what's your favorite song to play on the accordion?
Okay, well, thank you, Anita. And okay, so for those of you that maybe don't know, I kind of play the accordion. And when the pandemic began back in early March, I pulled it out of my closet and I started to reteach myself how to play, and I was playing it for many, many months to sort of like a town fool, to sort of bring a bit of lightness to people during the darkness. And anyhow, so Anita asked, my favorite song to play, Anita, is still the love theme from The Godfather, right? Now, some of you have messaged me privately saying, will you play the accordion during the launch? And I said, no, I will not. But, you know, Anton Chekhov, the great Russian playwright, he wrote a book about writing, and he said that if there is a gun hanging on the wall in the first act, it better be used by the end of the play. And I think that is also true for an accordion sitting on a chair in the kitchen. So yes, I am going to do a brief song on the accordion. It is going to be a Kinmount themed song, and so Anita, thank you for asking, and all of you that asked me to play something. So let me just see. Here we go. All right, and Kinmount themed accordion, take one. Let's start that again. I've got a sticky upper D key, folks, and it was going really bad in the summer when I was getting all sweaty, and it's still sticking, even in the chill of October. So let's try that again. Okay, there you go. And you know what? That was Glenn Campbell's Galveston. And I don't think you've ever heard Glenn Campbell killed just the same way on an accordion. So that's an experience that I was happy to provide for all of you this evening. Okay, now, the reason for that is there is a character in Kinmount who loves Glenn Campbell. And the next reading that I'm going to do, you're going to meet that character and find out a little bit why. Okay, so this second reading is now deep in the middle of the book. And Dave is now forced to depend on the kindness of strangers, from finding new digs, to a recasting issue, to attending a town council meeting to defend Romeo and Juliet. So, here we go. Dave's cell phone lit up like an air traffic control tower on 9/11. 5 miles outside the Kinmount town limits, the dead zone ended. He pulled over and parked on the gravel shoulder. He checked his voicemail. There were messages from his mother, the town of Birch Lake, and journalists hungry for a story. He'd call his mother back later. The Twin Pines Motel was built on the outskirts of Kinmount in the 1950s. Not much had changed about its homogenized appearance. It was a standard single-story motor hotel consisting of a single L-shaped building of connected rooms whose doors faced a common parking lot. A brightly painted fluorescent Adirondack chair sat outside each room facing the road. The Twin Pines featured an eye-catching colorful neon sign, still in use. 2 pine trees and a black bear advertised air conditioning. The sign was cracked and broken in the corners, the black bear missing its right hind leg, and a few of the neon tubes burnt out, so the sign now read, Tin Pins Motel and A Condition. A decommissioned railcar served as the Red Caboose Diner, poutine its specialty. The in-ground swimming pool had seen its last poolside martini years ago. The manager's office was attached to the rooms and included a small reception area. Dave opened the recording of the first 2 bars of Johnny Cash's Ring of Fire that in turn signaled Dave's bemused arrival. "Hi, Riley?" inquired Dave from the doorway. "That's my name, don't wear it out," said a man with his back to him, fussing with an old Seabreeze record player in the corner of the reception area. The needle scratched through 2 rotations, and Glenn Campbell's Gentle on My Mind began to play. The man turned around from his music duties. "Well, good morning, stranger," he said, adjusting his comb-over. "Wait, no. Are you Dave?" The Sarge's brother Riley was a short, bespectacled, balding man. He reminded Dave of Wally Cox, the reedy voice of Underdog, the animated 60s superhero parody cartoon. A character Dave understood all too well. Your brother the Sarge sent me," replied Dave. "Yepper, I knew you weren't no stranger. You got something theatrical about you. Yep, there's a man who works in the theater, I says to myself, and I knew the voice because I'd heard it before." It was as if Riley had stepped off the set of Hee Haw. "And a stranger's only a stranger until the other fellow says good morning back," Riley said quickly. Dave took his cue. "Good morning," he said. Just how long had Riley been living on his own? "Good morning, my no longer stranger new friend. That's what Glenn Campbell says in all his music." "I know I've always appreciated the back door being left open for me," Dave joked. "Oh, that's rich. Back door being left open for you. Yep, oh, Glenn could sing it all," said Riley, humming the chorus, now playing. "So, Riley, your brother mentioned that you might have a room I could rent for the next week," said Dave, redirecting the conversation. "Yep, what you need?" said Riley, pulling out his reservations binder. 2 single beds would be great," said Dave, trying to decipher Riley's upside-down chicken scratch. "Yep, I got something for you, my new theater friend. Room 15, 2 singles, air conditioning, color TV, Wi-Fi, whole 9 yards," fired off Riley in rapid succession. "You can even reach Galveston." Riley found himself particularly funny. "You want to see it?" he asked. "I'm good," said Dave. "How much?" "For you? No cost, my theater friend," said Riley. "List!" The ghost was back. "List!" Dave's head was instantly pounding. All right, I hear you, you battlement banshee," he snapped. "Battlement what?" asked Riley, offended. "Now, if you're going to be rude about it, I can just as easily—" "No, Riley, sorry, not you," said Dave, glaring at the ceiling. "You got tourniquet syndrome?" said Riley. "Something like that," said Dave. "Yes, I'd like the room, but I have to pay you. I appreciate your generosity, but a free room is bad luck for me." There's no such thing as a free lunch. He remembered his mother's words from childhood. If it's too good to be true, it is. "All right," said Riley. "A toonie a night each, since you want me to charge you something." Dave thought about Riley's offer. He would be paying rent, wouldn't he? The ghost remained silent. "Deal," said Dave. Riley jotted down the reservation. "And I'll throw in a free front row seat cushion for any performance you like," Dave added. "Closing night," said Riley, closing the binder. "I like to go on closing nights, but that time you guys have all the bugs worked out." "Done," said Dave with a thumbs up. The opening violin swell of Wichita lineman played as he shut the office door. "Hi, Mom. How are you?" Dave said in the motel's parking lot, his iPhone set on speaker. "You're alive. Not that I would know. It's nice to hear your voice, too. I've left you 12 messages since yesterday." Her voice was shriller than usual. "I'm sorry, but I don't have cell reception." Nice try. You just don't want to talk to your 75-year-old mother. Stop it. I can cancel your car insurance. I'm kind of busy right now. What do you want? What do you think I want? I don't know. Yesterday morning, I'm having my breakfast and the paper arrives. I'm turning to the crossword on page 12, and what do you think I see? Your obituary? She ignored him. I'm turning to the crossword and I come across a headline. And what do you suppose the headline reads? Take a wild guess. Oh boy. I can explain, said Dave. Director's immorality blamed for cancelled Shakespeare production. It's all a misunderstanding, and it's my son's name in print. My son is a vulgar abuser of women and children. Well, isn't that a lovely thing for a mother to read on a summer morning? And then the neighbors start calling. It reads worse than it is. I'm none of those things and you know it. The producer didn't understand the play and wanted me to make cuts that I couldn't and wouldn't do. It's you and your high and mighty Shakespeare again. Do you want to end up in prison? No one's going to prison. You have asthma. I've got to go. I'm dealing with a recasting issue. Why don't you put on plays people actually want to see? Mom, and for God's sake, please tell me you're not messing around with some local yokel. I'm not. I know what happens when you get stressed. Your common sense goes out the window. Mom, please, don't let your cheese slide off the cracker. I have to go. He hung up and turned off his phone. His mother would make an excellent Fury. She'd read the article. Great, he said to the Shakespeare bobblehead doll glued to the top of his dashboard. He pulled out of the motel parking lot. That's just great. The bobblehead nodded. Oh, shut up. He turned on the car radio and adjusted the tuning dial. The twanging sound of a slide guitar, a country fiddle, warm brushes on a ride cymbal, and a slow tenor singing drawl assaulted his ears. The song ended and there was an awkward pause. A voice crackled to life. And that was Lloyd Snow. No relation to Hank, but he's still pretty good. I'm your host, Too Tall Tim, and thanks for traveling with me down the back roads here on Kinmount Heritage Radio. Too Tall Tim sounded about 85. Dave pictured him in horn-rimmed glasses, a straw Stetson, white shirt and western tie, hunched over a microphone with a mess of corny jokes scrawled on his wife's recipe cards. Tim continued, Hey! Why did the summer school teacher wear sunglasses? Why? Dave asked his 7-inch Shakespeare. Because her class was so bright. No danger of that happening in Kinmount, Dave thought. Tim guffawed himself into a coughing spasm. We're broadcasting live from the truck stop, so come on down, cause I'm giving away fly swatters and bingo daubers, courtesy of Bill's Butcher Block. Meat so fresh you'll want to slap it. Dave sighed. A sigh loud enough to get him inducted into the Hall of Sighs. It's another thigh sticking to plastic chairs day, folks, announced Tim. He rang a triangle. And it's Lola Whale's birthday. Dave turned up the volume. 65 and still alive, said Tim. Today's birthday wish comes from Flo down at the Laundro copy. Flo? Exclaimed Dave. You can find Flo in Kinmount's Yellow Pages. Page, said Dave dourly. Now, we got a big council meeting happen tomorrow night, Tim continued, about whether that out-of-town director fella has been tampering with old Shakespeare. Lola says he's added cuss words and the like. To be or gosh darn be. Yep, that's what our birthday girl says, and she'll probably be there too. What the? There was a moment of radio silence, followed by the scratching sound of a needle skipping. Dave turned the radio off and turned left onto Circle Lake Road. 20 minutes later, he came upon the village of Littoral. Population, 325. A blink and you've missed it village. The welcome sign read, where everybody is a somebody. He drove slowly past an old barn selling antiques. A battered and faded sign on the driveway said, Dead people's stuff. Tradition is just pure pressure from dead people, Professor Schlosser had told his first-year class. Consequently, Dave refused to buy antiques. He noticed a tow truck parked in front of a supermarket. Bob's Collision painted on the side. Across the street was the volunteer fire department. Dave had images of Bob colliding in the parked cars on purpose and volunteers lighting houses and barns on fire. Could one be too literal in literal? Thank you. Okay, and now we're going to move on to some more questions. And yes, Ryan.
Kelly asks, your work in theater clearly plays a role in your writing too. Do you feel torn in terms of priorities between art forms?
Thanks, Kelly. Well, I write dialogue-based fiction with humor, and that comes directly from my experiences working in the craft of theater. And my directing process is very similar to my writing process in that both require me to ask questions of what does the character want more than anything? What is their objective they're pursuing? What are the obstacles that get in the way? How do they try to conquer those obstacles, and how are they changed by the end of the story? So that's where it lands, and it's very similar to me. And I find working in both mediums that there isn't any kind of competition for my attention. They cross-pollinate and both feed each other. So my directing, I feel, makes me a better writer, and my writer side of me makes me a better director.
Kelsey asks, when did you realize you wanted to become a novelist?
Hey, Kels. Well, when I was lucky when I was a boy in that my mother read to my brother and I all the time. So I grew up with The Good Doctor on Beyond Zebra, and immediately I fell in love with language and word hits and puns, and I couldn't get enough. And into high school, I was a voracious reader, you know, C.S. Lewis, Tolkien, John Irving, Mordecai Richler. I fell in love with Salinger and Milan Kundera. And when I went, and also I want to say, Kels, I first mentioned I was a kid, when I was about 12, 13, I used to write my own little books and illustrate them. So I would come home from school and do that every night after school. And when I went to York, which I went for theater, I did a minor in creative writing. And I was really lucky to have as an instructor B.P. Nichol, who was one of Canada's most amazing poets. And remember when B.P. walked in, he had these, you know, bell bottoms and a velour shirt and sandals and this crazy kind of Fraggle Rock wild hair, right? And he was so passionate, and he really got me excited about writing. And after I graduated, I would meet him for like a coffee every now and then at a cafe, because he was so encouraging of young writers. So that was bubbling in me at that point too. For a routine back operation, and something went wrong, and he died on the operating table, and we lost a great poet, and probably one of Canada's most important experimental poets was taken away from us so young. And so we jump to now, and I think that all the theater I've been doing over the many years has sort of been leading me to this juncture of transitioning into writing fiction and exploring this other vocation, which I've only been doing now for the past almost 10 years. So I am, in that respect, a very late bloomer when it comes to writing fiction.
Kristen asks, if there was an interest in film options, would you want to write the script or hand it over to someone else?
You know something I don't, Kristen? That would be great. I mean, no, I would be thrilled if someone was interested in turning Kinmount into a film. I think because from my experience in theater, I love the sense of collaboration and community of working with other artists. And I think I'd want to work with an experienced screenplay writer who knows the medium of film inside out, so knows how to adjust a book better to that medium, and then I could bring the intimacy of knowing the characters and story inside out, and hopefully that energy together we could make a really successful transference from the book to screenplay, ideally.
Ted asks, what's the fastest land mammal?
Okay, Ted. I'm going to answer that question by telling you this is the fastest land mammal in Kinmount. And that would be the Reimer family's two border collies, Wayne and Schuster, who every morning chase away the towny Canadian geese from their rehearsal site.
Keegan asks, do you have any future novels in the works?
Well, Keegan, right now I am in the final editing stages of a collection of short stories I'm calling Grin Reaping, and I'm also beginning the work on an outline of a new novel. And all I can say is that it involves writer's block, the chopping block, ghosts, and ghostwriters. That's all I know for now.
Michael and Chanel ask, what's with the obsession with shadflies?
Okay. Well, you know what? You need to come to North Bay. And you need to be in North Bay during the first 2 weeks of July when they emerge like the plague out of Lake Nipissing, and they cover your walls, and then you have to go out and hose them off, and you can smell them, and when you ride over them, it's like the sound of Rice Krispies in a bowl. I've always thought we should have like a giant shadfly contest here, like, and you know, and do like Cubist art with spraying them off the walls, but they really are disgusting for the 2 weeks they are here. But apparently, you know, all the naturalists say, you know, it means that Lake Nipissing's healthy, because if you've got shadflies swarming all over the city, it means it's good. It's like fish food. Anyways, that's, so I wouldn't call it an obsession. I just would say they're a big nuisance, and I thought they were just one more obstacle. And they're an important obstacle because they help drive Dave to take that directing job in Kinmount. So if you haven't experienced shadflies, come on up for the July long weekend.
Donna asks, where's Kinmount available?
Where's Kinmount available? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Donna. Kinmount is available, so I want to make sure I get this right. It's available right now. You can order on Indigo, and you can order on Amazon. And Amazon, Canadian Amazon, it's shipping out. Latitude 46 Publishing. And make sure you go to your favorite independent bookseller and ask them to order it in. And they will do that immediately. Not all the bookstores have it or keeping it in stock, right? So make sure that you actually ask for them to bring it in, and they will bring it in promptly. Here locally in North Bay, you can purchase it at Kohl's and Allison the Bookman. And I know just today, Rona Harrington, she sent me a message saying she bought the last copy of Kinmount at Allison's, and a new shipment of books is arriving at Allison's next week. And I'm going in to sign a few copies, so you'll be able to get it in North Bay at Allison's by the end of next week, hopefully. Okay. Any more questions, Ryan? Is that it for questions?
That's it for questions.
Great. Okay. Well, I want to thank you all for joining me on my launch of Kinmount. This has been a very special night for me, and it's been very moving to have all of you there with me. I just want to say, if you've enjoyed Kinmount, and if you enjoy Kinmount when you finally get to read it, please recommend it to your friends and your families and your colleagues, and maybe consider it as a Christmas gift. Posting reviews on social media and on Goodreads really helps. And as I said, you now can post on Amazon, CanadianAmazon.ca as of today. Like all the arts, these are tough times for the Canadian publishing industry, and they're even more difficult for small independent publishers like Latitude 46. So if anything, what COVID's been doing is returning us to our grassroots and hopefully a greater sense of community, and that we're all connected, and we all tell stories to make us feel less alone. That's why we go to plays and see movies and read books. So I also, right now, at this moment in time, with the assistance of Ryan, we're going to announce the winner of the draw. So Ryan, if you would, and a drum roll! We have a winner, and the winner is, he's showing it to me on a piece of paper, he's scrawling it down, and the winner is Sarah Sheard. Hey Sarah, that's fantastic. I'm so happy. So you'll be getting mailed from my publisher a copy of A Matter of Will and a copy of Kinmount. Great, okay. And so again, if any of you have any other questions you want to ask me, please feel free to, and I will get back to you online via email. And stay well and take care of each other. And hopefully we can see each other soon. Support our authors. And I'm going to wrap things up now and turn things over to North Facing Folk, who will be taking us out with Riley's favorite song, Glenn Campbell's Gentle on My Mind, while I have my cake and eat it too.
It's knowing that your door is always open and your path is free to walk. Yes, no, and I'm not shackled by forgotten words and bonds, and the ink stains of bright upon some line that keeps you in the back roads by the rivers of my memory. Hours you're gentle on my mind. It's clinging to the rocks and I can planet on the cones. Now that's me. Something that somebody said because they think we're fit together walking. It's just knowing that the world will not be cursed or forgiven when I walk along some railroad track and find that you're moving on the back roads by the rivers of my memory. Hours are gentle on my mind. The wheat fields and the clotheslines and the highways and the junkyards come between us, and some other one crying to the mother 'cause you turned and I was gone. I still might run in silence, tears of joys might stain my face, and the summer sun might burn me till I'm blind. I see you moving on the back roads by the rivers flowing gentle on my mind. I dip my cup soup back from a gurgling, crackling cauldron in some rail yard. My beard's rough from a cold cowl, a dirty hat torn across my face. Through cup cans and tin can, I pretend I hold you to my breast and find that you're moving on the back roads by the rivers of my memory. Hours are gentle on my mind, that you're smiling from the back